Hi guys, this is Liam from CryptoSlate. I'm here today with Maly Ly from Laconic. How are you doing today, Maly? Thanks for joining us.
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on.
No, thanks for joining us. I think today's talk is going to be a little bit more technical than some of the other things, but this is the sort of thing that for me is really important with blockchain. What you're doing, because I think there's some real issues potentially with Web3 that a lot of people aren't talking about, and it seems like you're addressing some of those. So for people that don't know, and I think at the moment, if you go to Laconic website, there's just a sign up form. It's all very mysterious. What is Laconic?
So, so if I had to really accurately describe in one phrase,
Hmm.
Laconic is a multi-chain verifiable data marketplace.
Okay.
And if I had to say describe it to a friend, a neighbor,
Hmm.
or a taxi driver, then
Hmm.
I would say that Laconic is building the app middleware or app store for Web3.
Okay. Okay, very cool. So, who's it designed for then?
So it is initially designed for DApp developers.
Hmm.
So for any decentralized application that requires pulling data from the blockchain,
Hmm.
Laconic is going to be able to help accelerate their development, reliability, uptime,
Hmm.
and accuracy.
Ah, very cool.
And
Go. No, go.
Yeah, and I wanted to add that later on, once we've developed Laconic for developers, that there is an incredibly exciting use case for users, for end users. Um, so eventually, end users will be able to uh, verify the accuracy of the data that they're getting across their applications, and they won't need to rely on another layer of verifiability or a third party.
So,
That's
so
very exciting.
would this help with issues such as last week I was writing an article about how we'd mined the 19 millionth Bitcoin, and what was fascinating was that everyone had a different view of which was the block that did it because everyone's nodes seemed to be out of sync and no one had confirmed what it was. So finding reliable data about which block mined the 19th million Bitcoin was really difficult. Is that the sort of thing you would be able to help with?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep. Exactly.
Okay.
And
Cool.
so and also that for instance when you think about the recent things that have been happening with bridges, imagine if you had a tracker of what was happening
Mhm.
in terms of the data, like basically operations and the data happening.
Mhm.
You would be able to tell right away and be alerted that things are happening that shouldn't be happening.
So are you referring to sort of like inverse finance and Ronin things like that, where
Yeah.
oracles? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, yeah. I mean, if you can stop people losing hundreds of millions, I think people would probably want to buy your product.
Yep. Absolutely.
So I mean, you've had quite the career. Worked with Nintendo, Star Wars, Ubisoft, Eventbrite, AdRoll. I mean, like in terms of marketing, it's quite an intimidating CV. Why is Laconic the next step for you?
So that's why you can see that I expressed a lot of envy for your back shelf. So I spent early career in product development
Hmm.
and growth, as well as go to market for interactive entertainment. And then I transitioned second half of my career into the wild, wonderful world of startups, tech,
Hmm.
and emerging tech. So, what is incredibly exciting for me about Laconic is that Laconic will enable creators, builders, and users the ability to control their own data.
Mm.
So ultimately, that is what excites me about it.
Yeah.
And when you look at where web development is going, When you look at currently where the sources and centralized power rest, it's in the holders of the data. And we want to create a future where DApp developers as well as users will be able to verify where their data is coming from, get their data in ways that they've never been able to, say, segment or view before, and ultimately be able to access their data in ways that they've never been able to before.
Sounds really, really exciting, and I think for me that is one of the aspects as well with Web3 is that we've had a lot of very fast-paced development, a lot of people working anonymously with each other, and there's a lot of things from, say, Web2 that has kind of been left behind in terms of standards and protocols and things. So are you looking to try and create more of a kind of bring some Web2 elements into Web3 here? Like what's the thinking behind what made you think, oh, we need to do this?
Yes. So when we think about what has constrained adoption of blockchain technology, what is the limiting factors in terms of how quickly we can broaden use cases, it really is fundamentally in the way that blockchain data can be pulled. So currently, if you want to access blockchain data, you're going to have to pull a large data blob. You're also going to need to store it. So you're talking about very long development times, as well as very expensive, because you also need to store all of that data. So over the past 4 years, we've been able to develop a technology that that allows you the ability to pull segments of data. And we're able to do that because we are leveraging databases that a lot of developers and organizations have traditionally been used to. And so when you're able to organize that data into a database, then you can have more control and you can pull more easily and query. So
are you saying that decentralized ledgers are basically going to have to rely on old school databases in order to thrive?
So it's not relying on old school databases, but it is relying on the way that, say, data structures are organized in databases, which
but
more
non-blockchain based.
Yeah, exactly what you need. So what's really exciting is that with Laconic, for the first time, you will be able to get cryptographic proofs with all of the data that you pull. So what most people probably don't know is that you cannot get cryptographic proofs, or you can't accurately verify your source of data currently. There's no solution now that allows you to do that. And when you think about a future, an interoperable future where chains, you have to build truly trustless systems. How do you truly trust each other? How do the parties truly trust each other without being able to verify the source of the data?
Huh. Yeah, I'd never thought of it that way before, and that actually I can see why you'd be quite excited about being able to do that. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you've gone. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, and then this, when you think about applications, so there's the need and proliferation of bridges. Bridges need provable and accurate data from all the counterparties. For NFTs, the ability to get the full chain of provenance, right, for where it came from, is really, really an exciting use case as well.
Yeah, I think that's going to be even more so with kind of metaverse projects. I mean, I've interviewed two different projects in the last week, and both have talked about um, bringing NFTs into different metaverse projects, and then metaverse projects trying to reach out to current NFT projects to bring them in and interacting with each other. So I think that kind of ties in with what you're saying there exactly. I'm seeing that in the market as well. Um, so your developer, Rick Dudley, co-author of EIP 1559. So what's his role? I saw he tweeted saying that it's been in stealth mode for 4 years, which I think aligns with what you've just said. So have you and him been working in the background on this for 4 years together?
Yeah, so I joined. Rick has been wow, he is a Ethereum architect through and through. So he has had a long career working on how to make blockchain systems work. So, for instance, he was involved in putting together the framework and the system for MakerDAO. He has been a core contributor to Ethereum as well as Cosmos SDK for many, many years. And then he's taken those learnings and he has integrated them into what is now becoming Laconic. And I joined Rick about a year ago. And so in terms of our co-founder responsibilities, so he is focused on the architecture and the product, and then I am focused on growth for the product.
Which from what I've seen, that seems like it's what you two do best. So it sounds like a bit of a dynamite partnership, to be honest. So
Yeah.
What do you see? So you say you went from product into tech, into SaaS, and now into blockchain and Web3. What is it about Web3 that you think solves a problem that we have with Web2 and before?
So when you think about current state of the internet and web and how people engage, this is a very centralized sector where people and their data have now become commodities. And so when we think about what needs to happen to progress forward, that is enabling the individual control and ownership and sovereignty. And that is why I've transitioned and I'm now fully working to progress and accelerate Web3 development. And like the early days of Web 2, so Web 2 was Web 1, when it was the read-only web, that there was a need for a lot of infrastructure. And the infrastructure, the tooling is going to help us progress faster to the true promise of what Web3 is. And so when we think about that infrastructure, it has to enable builders and developers to build faster. It has to enable them to be able to pull blockchain data faster. So what we're enabling with what we're building is we're taking setup from months to minutes, that developers will be able to build much faster. Again, just from the example of a setup, it's from months to minutes. And then being able to do it at a lower cost is going to increase the ability for developers to innovate. So we're talking about, and Rick is definitely the more conservative one, but and so it's we're looking at costs that are hundreds of times lower than what's currently in market and potentially thousands of times lower.
Wow. I mean, they all sound like great reasons for developers to get excited. I mean, that's what they're looking for. I mean, do you feel that without such technologies and without kind of more systemized approaches to Web3, do you think there's any danger of it failing to live up to its expectations?
So I think that at this point we're at a we've crossed kind of that threshold where there is so much right now happening in this space, and there are you know, when I think of for instance how much a ecosystem like Cosmos has progressed, that we are past that threshold. So I think that there is still a lot of experimentation, but there's a lot of progress that's been done on the infrastructure side, and obviously we are still early, which makes it exciting.
We have to keep saying that. It'll be 200 years' time, and everyone in crypto will still be saying we're still early. I
Yeah,
know I will be. I agree with you, though. I do agree. I think for me, it's
because
about the fact that the early days of the internet, you wouldn't imagined, as you say, you got read only, and then you've got ways that, oh, we thought that video calls would all be those hardwire boxes that we'd have on our desks. We wouldn't think you'd
yeah,
be able to do like what we're doing. I mean, we're on a video call and I'm recording at the same time, and I'll be able to hit stop and it'll be ready to go out as a video. Like we couldn't imagine in the 90s, even when we knew what the web was, what it could do. And I feel that blockchain, we're in a similar place. We've got these great things, but who knows where it's at.
yeah. And that's exactly why I chose to. So previously, I worked as chief growth officer at Akash Network. So it was a decentralized cloud marketplace, aka Airbnb for cloud. And I served there first as an advisor and then as in a growth and marketing leadership role. And it was a project in the Cosmos ecosystem. And I think that you see a pattern here where I've chosen very strongly to uh, support and build infrastructure for Web3. And I strongly believe that that's what's needed at this point, to really accelerate development.
Mm-hmm. I mean, what you're talking about, we had the headlines yesterday. I mean, Elon Musk taking 10% of Twitter. I mean, you say in terms of centralization, like it's happening more and more, isn't it? So,
Yeah.
what go on.
Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to ask you what is it specifically, other than or is it just the empowerment of people that really excites you about the concept of decentralization? It's something you've mentioned quite a lot.
So decentralization functionally has, also from a technical uh, point of view and from a usability, it is very valuable. So for instance, right now, there are the current data solutions in the market. They are centralized. So Laconic is building a marketplace of service providers. And what that allows is that there's really the uptime, right? The reliability, and the efficiency is much greater because instead of relying on one source of data, you will eventually be able to rely on 67 member validators to provide that data, along with a whole ecosystem that we're going to build of service providers who specialize in specific applications or chains. And when I think of you know, there's decentralization which we're enabling, and then you know, when you talk about yes, current solutions are centralized, but they also are not providing cryptographic proofs. So you're not going to be able to get a certain level of accuracy and trust that's needed for Web3 applications. And then in addition to that, because of the way we pull data, we are going to be able to bring the Web 2 user experience to Web 3. So we're materializing the vision of the blockchain light client. So I think that everyone can share an experience of how it's slow and a lot of times clunky to use DApps, and we're going to enable that a smoother, frictionless, and faster experience because of the way that we're enabling builders to leverage the data and build light clients.
So will the Laconic system be decentralized? And are you then, it sounds like you may be addressing the fact that something like 60% of Ethereum is built on AWS. So are you just going to have an AWS server as well, and is that going to be still the bottleneck, or have you got a solution to that?
So well, in terms of the service providers, we have, it is decentralized. So currently we're going to be launching with 7 founding member / validators. And then we will get to 67. So we're using Cosmos proof of stake governance. We are building on a Cosmos chain, and we have a token called Laconic Network Token. It is going to be an ERC20 token. And in terms of the governance, governance will be on chain, and it will be between 7 first and eventually 67. And in terms of how we get to 67 member / validators, we will be launching incentivized testnets as well as auctions to bring on new members after our first 7.
It sounds extremely fascinating. And one of the things that comes to me while we're talking, though, is that I think you're the first woman I've interviewed in terms of blockchain over the last several weeks since we've started doing video interviews here at CryptoSlate. And I know that you have a platform called Chief, I believe. What do you think is important about getting more, and do you think it's important to get more women involved in Web3 and blockchain technology?
Yes, I do believe that it's important. If we're talking about integrating, say, to improve product experience, to optimize a product, you need people with different types of experience and capabilities, and you need a different perspective. If you have, I'd say a bunch of guys in a room, yesing each other to failure, that's not a good thing.
No, exactly.
So and having come from Silicon Valley, where I was usually the only woman in an all-male room, that I definitely am used to taking a different perspective and a different stance.
Cool. I was just fascinated because I completely agree with you on that. I think it's something where there needs to be more equity for people involved in blockchain overall. And as I say, your CV is unbelievably intimidating for someone that's been involved in marketing for 15 years. I think you've absolutely smashed it. So I am super excited to see where Laconic goes, and I'll be keeping a very close eye on it. What is the roadmap now, just before we sort of close up, in terms of what can people expect to see if other developers are watching, if they want to get involved? What would be the next step for them?
Sure. So we've been in quiet mode. If you go to the websites, the social channels, we've set them live, but there hasn't been much content shared. we are going to be doing our public marketing launch at Amsterdam Blockchain Week / Dev Connect. So that will be the week of April 18th. So we're going to share a lot more information about what we've been building at Laconic. And in terms of a roadmap, that we are next progressing to a incentivized testnet. So we'll be announcing at that date when that will occur upcoming. And then next year, there's going to be a, we plan to share more about how people can participate.
Fantastic. Well, so the website is laconic.com, is that, I believe?
Yep. It's laconic.com.
So yeah, if anyone's interested, have a look there. And obviously the links will be below in the article as well. But Maly, thank you very much for joining me today. It's been really fascinating, and we'll see what happens next with Laconic in future.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Liam.